thing that Riot just absolutely loves to do. It's make the biggest patch changes they could possibly make. Not in the preseason, which is what these changes are designed for, but they just do them in the middle of the season. This patch is the biggest change that has happened to League in the past 5+ years, and it's for a lot of reasons that you wouldn't even expect. So we're going to be going over all of the changes, and especially how they relate to Tryndamere. Like this one right here. Static Shiv is back, bros. And if you don't know what Static Shiv is, Static Shiv is an item that basically has a Volibear passive of a really strong chain lightning effect that is really good for wave clear. It's really fun. And the last couple years that it existed, it wasn't really that strong, which kind of makes it have a little bit of a situation to where people who saw Shiv in the last year or two of its existence think, hey, this is a bad item. Why would you ever be hyped for this? But no, us OGs, we remember when Shiv was actually a good item that was usable on any champion in the game. So this is going to be really fun. It also builds out of Noon Quiver, and Noon Quiver is really a strong component. Gives you a lot of wave clear, so this will be really nice. I'm personally going to be trying to test this as like a rush item. Has good amount of AD. It's a decent price for a first item. Has crit, has attack speed. And that's one thing that we'll see in the item changes later, is that a lot of items don't have attack speed anymore. Especially a lot of the mythics. That was a really big thing. That if you want to have attack speed, you're going to have to intentionally try to buy it. So this is going to be probably one of the most significant changes that we would see to Trynd, of trying to see if this is maybe something that we can get done on Trynd. And especially with having a little bit of extra magic damage of 60 to 170. And so many items just have all of these random sources of magic damage that'll make it be a lot harder to actually build against us. And one thing is that there are so many new mythics that are coming in. First off, I just have to say this. The new Rageblade mythic, which is one of the most kind of controversial changes on the patch, which is a new AD carry mythic, which will give AD carries large sources of magic damage too, called Seething Sorrow. So all the new AD carries are gonna be seething, bros. That's just it. They're just gonna be seething. So we'll get into the Rageblade changes later, but I just had to point that out. Got some new cool names like Edge of Finality, Flicker. Go over all of the mythics later. This Zeal change, it's just as expensive before, but it's lost 3% attack speed and 4% MS. This is going to make the item be just a lot weaker as just randomly kind of building a Zeal in your itemization path. Right now, what I'm doing on Tryndamere is I'm going Hydra, Ravenous Hydra, into Zeal, into IE/Hullbreaker, or Hullbreaker/IE. And that was really nice, because it's a really high value amount of attack speed, crits, and movement speed, which are all stats that Tryndamere loves. And so this getting a little bit of a nerf does make it weaker for just building it as a component, which makes it a lot worse on Yasuo, Yone, Tryndamere. Like, all of these champions are really going to feel a hit because you can't really just build Shiv as a component. It's kind of over. It's kind of over, bros. A lot of items like this are becoming a lot stronger. Abyssal Mask, which is going to be very important because all of these champions getting random extra magic damage will make MR Shred be a lot more viable. And fighter items, there's a couple things here that are really important. But it's also worth noting that this has no mana anymore, which was a big problem. It also, with Zeal, that is one thing, is that it's no longer a unique item. There's a potential that that gets added later, but it's possible that we might be able to stack Zeals. We'll see. But yeah, no mana on this will be bad for mana bros, which will be an issue. So with a couple of these changes, Core Drinker, still just not going to be stronger. Higher Mythic HP. Tryndamere, don't think about building this. Please don't. This item was never good on Tryndamere, and it never will be. Stop trying to make this item work. It's a really weak item, even after these health changes. Not going to be that important. Stridebreaker getting more AD. 60 AD is not something to, like, laugh at. When I first hit Challenger, I was doing it with a Stridebreaker build, but this doesn't have much of a dash. Like, it's just a lot weaker of an item than it used to be. There's potential that this might be useful on Tryndamere in certain situations, but there's just going to be a lot stronger mythic options that we'll go over later. And this right now, I've been building Hullbreaker after being pretty skeptical of it for a while, and Hullbreaker is getting pretty significant buffs. Not only is it getting a larger amount of AD, but it's also getting a 5% movement speed. And 5% movement speed is a lot. That's how much Zeal is getting nerfed by. So that 5% MS is going to be absolutely insane. Especially for the idea of what Hullbreaker's identity is as an item, which is split pushing. And having that movement speed makes it so that you are able to escape from getting flanked on so much easier. And so that is really going to make Hullbreaker be much more of an attractive purchase in a lot more situations. Not only just for Tryndamere, but for champions in general. Phantom Dancer changes. Attack speed is up a little bit. And that was one thing, is that Phantom Dancer had pretty low attack speed unless you got the proc. And so this also just has a much more attractive build path. That Hearth-bound Axe, which is basically just the old Phage passive. It's cheaper now. And it already made sense for this to be a component of Phantom Dancer, because Phantom Dancer already had this passive. And unfortunately, it's still blue Phantom Dancer. It's not going to be pink Phantom Dancer, so that's going to be a big problem. A reason why we'll go into this later is that this might be a more attractive buy, is that the attack speed will potentially be very nice, because items in general have a lot less attack speed. So you might want to be thinking about going Phantom Dancer a lot more, even in the context of like Lethal Tempo or Phase Rush. It doesn't matter. Yeah, these Zeal nerfs are just hitting so hard. Bloodthirster is getting pretty heavily nerfed. There's no more shield on Bloodthirster anymore. But while above 50% HP, you're gaining 10 to 40 AD. So it's more or less giving you an adaptive focus passive, which is fine. Like, it might be good. One thing that I've actually been recently doing as an adaptation is I've been going Water Walking and Adaptive Focus on Tryndamere. And you would think, hey, why would you go Adaptive Focus and Last Stand? Because they give you damages at different points. But Adaptive Focus gives you raw AD when you are healthy, which is going to be when you're farming. Which, that change for me has made my farming capabilities be so much stronger. So that's something that I've been thinking about. And this is one thing, is that the fountain changes. These mana regen changes are so important for Tryndamere. Because we're going to regen so much more mana, bros. Because, you know, Tryndamere is always Tryndamere is always out of mana, which is why Essence Reaver has always been such a strong item on Tryndamere. This joke. But yeah, it's nice, because that was always a thing, is that you'd have to, as a mana champion, stay in base for a little bit longer. One thing is that home guard timers are being reduced, so the extra movement speed you get from going out of base is going to happen as soon as turret plates fall instead of at 20 minutes, which is going to make games be a lot harder to end a little bit quicker. So that'll be something that you have to take into account. But yeah, no, Tryndamere does not have mana. This mana change does not actually do anything for him. Just FYI. Unleash Teleport, changing from 14 to 10, is that this is going to allow you to actually do those kind of TP flanks while plates are still up, which will make there be a lot more room for potential plays to have a top lane flank come in to take those plates down later for special kind of flanks. And we'll go into a change later that makes, in general, roaming be a lot harder. So this is kind of a compromise. This change goes with another change that we'll go over later. That is pretty significant. And this kind of goes into the changes of so many items having extra random magic damage, is that Lord Dom's, the anti-tank shred item, anti-armor item, now gives you bonus physical and magic damage. So it's literally just a Void Staff too, you know? Except for, like, Magic Pen, it's magic damage penetration. Or just bonus magic damage, which is kind of similar in terms of function. But yeah, this is really just getting changed because so many items and champions are getting extra magic damage. You got Shiv, you got the Storm Razor. Storm Razor's getting some bonus magic damage. The new Rapid Fire Cannon, it's pretty similar. Kraken Slayer is no longer a mythic. Kraken Slayer is now a legendary item that you can build in addition to a mythic too. And so this, it's kind of similar. So it's 3. So every third attack applies a bonus magic damage attack. And additional triggers on the same target within 6 seconds increases this damage by 50%. So, no more true damage on Kraken Slayer. But if you're attacking somebody a bunch of times, you'll do more damage overall. So, yeah, this is still, like, decent on Tryndamere. You're getting a little bit of magic damage, not really having the true damage. This would depend on how significant the itemization changes are in terms of how much this would actually be a useful tank shredding item. Although this doesn't really get that tank shredding capabilities because so many items of tanks have both armor and MR. So they get a little bit of MR. This is going to be doing a lot less damage than it used to be because it's not true damage. So this doesn't really have any benefit from tanks versus squishies. So this will make it so if you get 6 autos on a squishy, like, they're probably going to die. Most mythics for tanks have both armor and MR on them. So that's one thing to think about. Gale Force is still going to be a mythic. It's still going to have the dash. It has a lot less attack speed, being built from a Zeal and a BF sword. I don't think this is going to be a good item at all. Still a 90-second cooldown. That's so long. I've thought that Gale Force is pretty weak on Tryndamere for a while because the fight recall fight timer is less than 90 seconds. This is shorter than it was before. I think it's like 110 right now, so that's something to think about. But yeah, in general, Gale Force is not very good. Yeah, Gale Force. I would not recommend ever kind of doing this. So this is the new Immortal Shield Bow. No longer has attack speed on it, but it does give you attack speed when you get the shield. And this will just generally be an item that you would not consider on Tryndamere. Again, there's so many other good items that you would build on Tryndamere, and this is what we want, bros. So Infinity Edge is now a mythic item. And I predict that this will be the go-to mythic item on Tryndamere. And there's a lot of reasons why I would say this. It's either between this or Navori, but, like, overall, this is just giving you a lot of damage, 35% crit damage. This is going to be pretty insane in terms of just how much extra damage it gives you. And you either really have an option between this or Navori, which is the same of it having the nerfed cooldown reduction, but then a lot of the extra value in this, not only does this give ability haste as a mythic now, so this would be giving you quite a bit of ability haste, but like this Impermanence Passive, a lot of the value in Navori is in the idea of your abilities dealing up to 20% increased damage. And the problem is Tryndamere doesn't do a lot of ability damage, right? So this is a lot of the power budget of the item being put into this Impermanence passive, whereas Transcendence is the passive that Tryndamere would hypothetically want. So because of that, you just overall will use Infinity Edge as a passive much more often, which will be something that I would generally favor the item over more. And this is the item that's going to be the big AD carry item that so many people want. A lot of AD carries like Akshan, Vayne, Kindred are getting... those champions have on hits, so they're going to really be considering this. A lot of those champions have increased AP scalings, right? So they have random AP scalings added to their kit because Rageblade has AP. Rageblade has magic damage on hit, and your critical strike chance gets converted into even more magic damage. So there's so much extra magic damage. You get armor pen and magic penetration, and a lot of other items are getting that extra magic damage, which will make it to where this is going to be what a lot of champions will go. So you have to kind of consider that champions like Akshan, champions like Vayne, they're going to be getting a lot more just kind of random magic damage. So, a couple other changes that like might be a little bit Tryndamere related. This one right here is Duskblade. Instead of having invisibility, right, which is what it used to have right now, invisibility that reset on takedown. So if you killed one, you'd go invis. You kill another, you go invis. Now, you gain invulnerability or untargetability, similar to Azonia's, but you can move for 1.5 seconds. However, it's on a 10-second cooldown. So it used to be reset on takedown, whereas now it's not reset on takedown. Because a big problem that happened with the old Duskblade is they would get a takedown and they would be low, and you would think that they just died. But they didn't. So now it's similar in the sense that you can't target them, but they are... there's going to be a lot less visual unclarity, which is going to be a lot better for the game. The problem with the old Duskblade is that it was just very unclear. Hey, did this person die or did they just go invis? Yomu's Ghostblade. Let's see if this would be a good item on Tryndamere. It's a chase item. So active. Movement speed and ghosting for 6 seconds on a 45-second cooldown, so really low. During this time, you generate stacks 2 times faster. Stacks. Stacks. Gain 100 spectral shards while moving. Gain up to 50% movement speed. Gain up to 50 movement speed out of champion combat based on the number of spectral shards. While at max shards, gain extra lethality. Shards will reset 4 seconds after dealing damage to an enemy champion. So you'll get the extra lethality and value for 4 extra seconds after getting somebody. This might have potential. Like, it's a decent item. It's definitely a decent item. On Tryndamere, I'm not really super sold on that. 50 movement speed is a lot, and the legendary item passive is pretty good. 8 AD, which is the same thing that... this has 5, but 8 AD is a lot. That is definitely a lot. And the item, which Season 2 bros all know and love, Chalice of Harmony, is back. But yeah, movement speed is the best stat. So this, you know, it maybe might have some value. Although, it's just a question. It's just a question. This would be something worth testing out on Tryndamere. So Chalice of Harmony is back, and now it's called Echoes of Helaya. And this is basically what the old one worked like. So if you damage a champion, you can damage a champion, and you get increased healing when you damage a champion. So that's just something to kind of note right there. Styx Gage. You're not going to be building this on Tryndamere. Okay, you're not going to be building this on Tryndamere. But this does give you increased size and tenacity again, which will just be something to note, is that you're going to see a lot of big champions. It's Athene's Unholy Grail, actually. Athene's Unholy Grail was the item that we just looked at. Yeah, this is Athene's Unholy Grail. Which, they got rid of the name Athene's. Fun fact, there used to be a thing where there was a refer a friend program in League, And if you got enough refer friends, you would be able to get an item in the game for you. And so there was like Total Biscuit of Rejuvenation for the YouTuber Total Biscuit. And there was also Athene's Unholy Grail, which was another item that was added for him. And the problem is Athene is now a cult leader of just a literal cult. So, yeah, they are removing his stamp on the game by reintroducing his item, but just without his name. So that's a little fun fact, League lore. It's just a literal cult. And so going back into what is the biggest change in League of Legends since the Unleashed teleport changes a couple years ago. A couple years ago, the preseason did nothing. I think it was in like 2020 to 2021. Preseason does absolutely nothing. And then 2 patches into the season, they make teleport all of a sudden not work until 14 minutes in, unless you're teleporting onto a turret. That change was absolutely insane for how much it changed the way that League was played. There was no longer 5-man bot ganks level 3, which is what there used to be. And now, this change right here to minions. This is now the biggest change since then, and even probably bigger than that. Is that this minion change right here sounds like it's not too big, but it really is. Except for the first spawn of minions. From the first spawn to 14 minutes, because they corrected it. Mid lane minions will meet at the same time as side lanes. AKA, side lane minions will be sped up. That means that both the mid lane and the side lanes are killing their waves at the same time. And the problem with that not being staggered is that it makes roaming so much more impossible. It makes it so hard to roam because your wave is at the same time. So when you clear your wave, the top lane is clearing their wave. So the idea of ganking at all as a mid laner is just so much worse. And there's another change that also isolates lanes. That's functionally what these changes are doing, is making top lane be an island, mid lane be an island, bot lane be an island. And with all of these 80 carry item buffs, that's kind of what they want, is they want bot lane to sit in their own little lane and scale. And not have to worry about getting dove by a Tryndamere level 2. Which is kind of currently what's going on right now, you know what I mean? So this change right here with the Unleashed teleport, this will allow, so there won't be a lot of ganking action happening from the second wave to 10 minutes in. But after these teleport changes, that'll make it to where from 10 minutes to 14 minutes, there'll be a little bit more potential for plays. But it's a lot more situational than it used to be. And there's a lot more buff to jungle agency now that lanes are isolated, because now junglers are going to be the only ones who can really impact lanes. Plate resistance. One of the biggest things about plate resistance is that this is making it so that it's a lot harder to take plates early. And in general, it's going to be a lot harder to take plates. So that if you do get a gank, you're no longer going to get a gank plus 2 plates. Which will make people just have their lane be entirely over. And this has a slight side kind of tangent with it. That leveling in bot games as a 5-stack is massively nerfed now. Because the best way to level in League of Legends right now, if you're leveling a new account, is to have 5 people go into a bot game, go bot lane, and just push down that bot lane until you win. Now it might actually be a couple minutes every game of increased time that it takes, because this is a lot of extra oomph that it will take, and especially when you don't have a lot of damage early on, it's going to take forever to take those early turrets. So this makes it to where buying accounts is significantly more incentivized, which is kind of exactly the opposite of what Riot wants. It's going to make it so much harder to level your own account, which is just really annoying for no reason. Because I clearly level all of my accounts. And so if I ever want to make a new Smurf, that's going to heavily impacts me. Mana regen is up, and one of the other big changes is that the blast cone that's over the river wall, to show you what that blast cone is, it's the blast cone that spawns right here. So near red buff, right behind Dragon Pit, right behind Herald Pit, this cone is very useful for diving a side lane, especially as a mid laner. And this change to where the blast cone no longer spawns when you're level 6. It'll spawn when you're about like level like 8 or something, or level 9. So this blast cone is now no longer spawning, which is going to make those changes to diving a side lane so much harder. Unless you're a champion with a wall leap. And with that, that makes it to where champions like Tryndamere, champions like Talon, champions like Rek'Sai are going to be in a much stronger spot because they have such easy wall manipulation that the average mid laner, like a Victor, can no longer hit level 6, use the blast cone, go over the wall, and then dive your bot lane level 6. So it's a much bigger buff to mid lane Tryndamere, whereas for the standard mid lane champion, like they're not really going to be able to get a lot of stuff. So overall, I think this patch is going to be pretty insane as a buff for Tryndamere. And in general, this has been really needed because the biggest problem right now is that Tryndamere is kind of weak right now. Tryndamere isn't in the best spot that he could be in. And the problem is he's not weak enough to have Riot look at him for a buff, but he's not strong enough to actually feel good. So it's the worst possible spot for Tryndamere. So any drastic changes, which biggest thing I love about Riot is how much they cater to AD carries, because that's functionally catering to Tryndamere indirectly. So every time there's a massive change, that it will either make Tryndamere a lot stronger or a lot weaker, which will make it more likely that Riot gives us a good, healthy middle ground. Because Tryndamere is ideally balanced around a 52% win rate. If that's what he's at, then he's good. He's fine. Right now, if you look at OPGG, on every major region, there's like one Tryndamere main in Grandmasters. Like, there's maybe one Tryndamere main in Challenger. Tryndamere is not good, especially in high elo right now. There's like none of them that are in high elo. I'm going to change that soon. We're going to get to Challenger soon, and then especially after these changes, we're going to go straight to the moon, brothers. Well, if we could go. But you get my point. So we're going all the way up. We're going to break the glass ceiling. You know what I mean? So yeah, this change, especially this minion change, along with the atomization change, is going to make this be the biggest change in League of Legends in the past 5 years since probably the Dragon changes. That would be the closest thing that would actually impact the game as much as this patch. And it's kind of silly that this happens halfway through the season, that they're going to be spending the next 3-4 months rebalancing and refining this massive change to the game. And then preseason is going to hit again, and then it's all going to be changed again. Like, this is a big problem with how Riot does things, is that it's just constantly going to be changes. Also, every time I make these videos, I gotta keep saying it, Riot is just a terrible company. Riot is just a terrible company. Biggest thing is that all of these changes, there's no way for you to actually know these changes, right? Because there's no singular source that you can go to. You have to follow all of these random Rioters' Twitter accounts that have gums that look like this. You have to follow all of these random Rioters' Twitter accounts because there's no centralized source that posts these. And the reason that these people do this on this team is so that this Truxie guy, right? This guy gets to get 20,000 followers while having the personality of a wooden plank. And nobody cares about this actual guy, this person. They care about following League of Legends changes. So people follow this guy for League of Legends changes. And in 1-2 years, when this guy leaves Riot, he gets to keep all of his followers. And now he gets to go to his new company and say, hey, I have 25,000 followers that all are into serious hardcore PC games. Give me more money. That's exactly how this kind of stuff works. So that's the reason why everybody gets all of this free clout. And you see so many people that will work as the lead designer of the Summoner's Rift team for like 2 months, quit, and then use their clout to get some other job. Like, there was 1 year where there were 3 different designers. It's just absolutely insane that all of these changes should be posted to this Twitter account right here. But yeah, it's just not going to be the case. You're not going to see all of this stuff. There's no actual centralized source to this, which is just... It's just silly. Because the reason why they don't have a centralized source for this is so that they want you to follow Tim. Tim wants you to follow him. Yeah, like... This is the guy that you're kind of gonna have to go to. And who knows how long that guy's gonna actually go to. So, thank you guys all for watching. See you guys in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye. Let me know what you guys think about the changes. Any builds that you guys are thinking about in terms of what you think will be the next newest Tryndamere build. We're going to be trying a bunch of things and seeing what works out. So see you guys all in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye and good night. Yeah.